boxing fans, it's EBA 101, and today we're going to cover something that happened last week. The WBO for the welterweight championship ordered Terence Crawford to face Shawn Porter. This is a blessing in disguise for a lot of the boxing fans, since Terence Crawford has been criticized a lot for not facing the top oppositions he has faced. At least at welterweight, at 140, he had a better record, but some people consider him like he was too big for that class and too skilled for that class. But he did unify at 140. But at 147, he beat Horn, he beat Amir Khan, he beat Kell Brook. None of them. Well, Horn was never really top tier. Yes, he beat Pacquiao, but a lot of people thought they robbed Pacquiao and stuff over there. And Amir Khan and Kell Brook were out of their prime. Kell Brook had fought Triple G, gotten his face broken, his orb broken, however you call it. But yeah, so they were not on their prime, and this is a fight that hopefully is made because he's been chasing for Manny Pacquiao for years. He hasn't made the fight with Errol Spence Jr. There's been this big debate of what's going to happen with unification at 147. He wants more money, he wants 50-50 or wants 160-40, whatever the case is. And there was talks about Porter wanting Crawford, and that was not kind of happening. But now that this is ordered, it's going to go to a purse bid. Hopefully now it makes it happen. And I think this is going to be probably one of the most competitive fights if it happens this year. And, regardless of the weight class, probably I actually think it's going to be a better fight overall than Errol Spence Jr. Versus Pacquiao, because I think it's going to be a closer fight. Manny Pacquiao versus Errol Spence is going to be a way bigger fight, of course. Those two big names, and it's going to probably do really well in the pay-per-view numbers. In the Porter versus Crawford fight, these two fighters are not really well known to sell pay-per-views as much, but they're really great fighters. And some people are arguing that Porter might have won against Errol Spence, or if he would have stayed up later in the fight, he probably would have won. So that fight has been really competitive. Porter has given really close fights to all his fighters that he's fought recently, and he's probably one of the tougher ones, as he just grinds it out and makes you fight 12 rounds. But Crawford has this skill, right? And well, it looks like he's very skillful because he hasn't really faced someone in top tier. So this is going to be probably the biggest eye opener for us. How good is Terence Crawford for the general public, right? Also for some of the boxing fans, because once you start facing people closer to your tier, then you're going to really show your skills. Yes, you might get hurt here and there, or you might box beautifully and make Porter look like an amateur, and that was just really solidified. Hey, Terence Crawford is great, but of course, styles make fights, so you can't really compare. But it would just kind of put a stop to everybody talking about Crawford not being such a great fighter or not deserving as much. But this is the best thing that could happen to the boxing fans, for the welterweight division, since it forces him to improve his record, Terence Crawford's record, because Porter has faced a lot of fighters at 147, top tier at their prime. He fought versus Keith Thurman. He fought versus Errol Spence, Danny Garcia, Adrian Broner when he was still kind of good, Kell Brook at his prime. So there's a lot of fighters that he has fought, and probably he's on one of the best welterweight resumes. Him between Errol Spence Jr. and Manny Pacquiao, of course, just Manny Pacquiao has been here forever. But I think those are the ones who had the best resumes at this point. And Danny Garcia, of course, he has an excellent resume of the opponents he has faced. But this is something that hopefully does happen. And if it doesn't, Crawford might get stripped or something. I don't know the consequences that they will do. And hopefully they don't try to avoid it. It just needs to happen. I know Porter and Crawford are friends, but hey, this is business. This is something that benefits both of them. Gives Terence Crawford a bigger, bigger television fight to watch for the public, more eyes to bring in him to know who he is and do better in the pay-per-view numbers possibly, but also just his record wise. It just is going to solidify if he ends up winning. Crawford needs to look good if he ends up winning. It's close fight. It shows basically everybody is gonna be close enough in the top tier of the division of like Porter, Crawford, and Spence. They're like really close to each other. If he kind of edges him out and Porter wins, he becomes 3-time welterweight champion. Something just amazing that it would be, and he probably would want to do the rematch with Errol Spence Jr. to unify the titles, to become possibly undisputed. I don't know how, if Manny Pacquiao is going to get the full the belt for the WBA belt, I believe, back completely or not. So there's possibly unification for undisputed at 147, and that'll be something that hopefully happens next year if this fight happens, and I think it will speed things up. That's it, guys. If it does happen, I'll make a prediction video. I do think if it does happen, this is going to be the fight to watch for the rest of the year. Although, of course, you're going to want to watch Manny Pacquiao and Errol Spence Jr. You'll want to watch AJ versus Usyk. These big fights. Any Canelo fight is going to be. But I think competitive-wise, this, at least on paper, should be the best fight to watch just and enjoy. All right? Like, comment, subscribe. Peace out.